Hello and welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Before we start with our today's analysis, we have an announcement. In continuation with our knowledge series, today's lecture would be with respect to Article 370 and Article 35A. Tomorrow's lecture would be about preamble. Please do tune in live on our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. so that you understand everything about this topic. And this lecture will be delivered by Sarmat sir. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is speaking about stampede. Let us try and understand what is stampede, what are the reasons for stampede that happens in India, what should be the measures that have to be taken by the government of India as well as by the respective states. First up, we have to understand the meaning of stampede. Imagine that you are in a sports event, or you might also be in a concert enjoying the music as well, or you might also be in a festival embracing the love or the divine presence in that place. All this is good as long as there is no issue with the crowd management. But what if there is failure of the crowd management, or there is overcrowding in that particular place? There is a rumor that immediately spreads. This is when people start clashing with each other. This is when they collide with each other. They would want to rush out of that particular place, and this is what leads to stampede. So what is stampede? If there is overcrowding in that particular place, or if there is no proper crowd management in that designated place, people start moving all of a sudden. They collide against each other. They fall down as well. They trample as well. People start moving on the people as well. This is a point which has led to death of number of people, resulting in stampedes in multiple states in India. If we have to look into the statistics, we have multiple places where we have witnessed stampedes in India. Let's take the example of Rajasthan. 224 people were killed in Chamunda Deva temple crash in 2008. If we take the example of Gujarat, in Panchamahal, 11 people were killed in temple crash in 2007, in Rajkot in 2009, in Junagadh in 7 in a religious event in the year 2012. If we take the example of Delhi, 5 people were killed in the government school in 2009, 5 people in the railway station in 2004. If we take the example of Bihar, in Patna, 32 people passed away in a religious event in 2014. In Banka, 10 people passed away in a religious event in 2010. If we take the example of Madhya Pradesh, in Datia, 115 people were killed in Ratangam, Satna 10 people, Ratnam 10 people, Bhopal 8 people. So all this means that because of such events being taking place in multiple states, it has led to stampede, leading to loss of lives in the country. If we have to take the number of people who have passed away in the year 2015, it was as much as 480. In the year 2014, it was as much as 178 people. In the year 2013, it was about 400 people. This meant that stampede continues to be a major disaster in the country, and all this is because of the flaws that have been existing in the system. What causes a stampede when it comes to India? There are multiple reasons for the same. The first happens to be the panic or the excitement. What exactly happens? There is an event that is taking place in a particular place. In this event, there is overcrowding. Because of the overcrowding, there might be a specific rumor that immediately spills out. Because of this rumor, people either get panicked, they also fall into that excitement mode, and they start leaving this particular place in a panic mode. So whenever there is overcrowding or irrational and dangerous movement for the self-protection, this leads to injuries and fatalities, and that happens to be the first major reason. So what is the reason here? The first reason happens to be the rumor. In case people hear a rumor, they panic in that place and they want to move out of this place, resulting in a stampede. The second is because of the structural failure. What is the structural failure? Let's take the example of Elphinstone railway station. This is present in the state of Maharashtra in Mumbai. What happened? There was stampede on the foot over bridge. So there was a bridge. On this particular bridge, people had come to take shelter because of the rain, because this bridge was old enough and this bridge was not able to withstand large number of people on that bridge. This led to a failure of the bridge, and this led to the stampede as well. So a structural failure may basically include makeshift bridge, temporary structure where people come to that particular place, the bridge is not able to withstand, leading to the collapse of the bridge, leading to the stampede in that particular area. The third happens to be because of the lack of coordination among the administrative agencies. We have different types of administrative agencies. Let's say, for example, we have the fire service, the police, the shrine management, the commissioner of that particular place, forest officials, revenue officials, medical officers, shrine management in a pilgrimage. These people will all have to coordinate in case there is an event that is taking place in that particular area. But what happens? There is no coordination between all these agencies, and at the same time there is poor infrastructure as well. Even if there is good infrastructure, due to the lack of coordination, this can also result in the stampede as well. So whenever there is an official designated for a specific work, that person should know what are the responsibilities that this person has been given with. Unfortunately, because these people do not know the duties, because there is lack of coordination, and because there is delayed posting to that particular region, this has resulted in multiple stampedes in multiple states in India. The fourth happens to be inadequate security. What do we mean by inadequate security? For a designated place, there has to be enough number of people who will be safeguarding that particular place. In case there is an uncalled event, there should be police officers. These police officers should be able to regulate that specific area. But what if we do not have enough number of people to safeguard that particular region, or there is lack of adequate rehearsals that has taken place in this particular area, or there is lack of adequate observation towers within this particular region, or there is inadequate briefing for the security personnel? In all these cases, they would not be able to keep up to the momentum that is happening in that area. They would not be able to control the crowd as well. And whenever there is inadequate security, this has also resulted in stampedes in multiple states in India. Most of the religious events are located in areas like banks of rivers, hilly terrains, or mountain tops. And here, if there are no proper pathways leading to this destination, this has also resulted in stampede. So remember, if you consider the developed countries, in most of the developed countries, whenever there is a stampede, this can be because of the sporting events, because of the music concerts, or because of the nightclub actions as well. But when it comes to India, most of these stampedes have taken place at the religious places. So religious places have to be safeguarded, they have to be taken care of, and if it is not, whenever there is overcrowding, this has resulted in high desired velocity of people rushing out, and this has resulted in stampedes in India. Added to it, what we have is the improper or the inadequate arrangement. What is this inadequate arrangement? Let's say, for example, whenever an event is being drafted, what you have is the organizers who should be able to take care of that particular event. They should also know that in case an uncalled event happens, they should also be in a position to ensure that there is exit points that are given. But unfortunately, in most of the events, there are narrow spaces as well, where in case there is an uncalled event, there are not much spaces for these people to rush out of that event, and at the same time, there are also block exits, congestion that happens along the exit areas. These are some of the causes for the stampede. And whenever there is a stampede, what we will have is the economic loss, and this also leads to loss of lives of the people as well. So this article currently goes on to say what we require is certain measures to be adopted. What are these measures? This is what we call as the crowd disaster management. What is this crowd disaster management? Basically, this is where when large number of people come to a specific event or to an area, how do we control them? How do we manage them so that uncalled events do not take place in this region, is what is called as crowd disaster management. So what are the measures that we may have to take? The first is to regulate the traffic in areas surrounding all these events. So whenever there is an event that is taking place, traffic has to be regulated. For pedestrians, there has to be a route map that has to be given. Barricading at certain points will have to also be taken, and whenever whenever there is increasing crowd, this has to be monitored by the CCTV cameras as well. So first, regulate the traffic. If there is burgeoning of the people coming up to that particular area, keep monitoring the CCTV cameras in that particular place. In case there is more number of people entering, this has to be constantly monitored on the CCTV, and immediately, in case there are more people coming into the area, the same will also have to be regulated as well. Unauthorized parking and makeshift stalls should not be present in the pedestrian space, and this also needs to be taken. Medical emergencies should also be set up as well. In case there is a catastrophe, an ambulance or a healthcare professional should also be on the standby so that they would be able to save the lives of the people. The venue organizations should also ensure authorized use of electricity, fire safety, extinguishers, so that this event does not have uncalled event. And finally, all the people who are traveling to that particular area should also be familiar with the exit routes as well. This is on the one side, and on the other side we also have the media, which also has to be regulated as well. So whenever there is a disaster, before a disaster, they have to bring attention of the authorities, prepare the community and making them aware of the do's and the don'ts, and keeping a watch on the antisocial elements, thereby helping in maintaining the law and order situation. And during a disaster, they should broadcast accurate information to stop rumors and hence reduce panic, make people aware of the do's and don'ts to reduce further damage of probable secondary risk, and can assist the authorities in reaching out to the victims and their families, facilitate resource mobilization for their relief operations. And finally, after the disaster, the media also has to inform the people about the post-disaster rehabilitation measures, provide aid in investigating the causes of the disaster, can help generate expert opinion through debates and discussions for better preparedness level in the near future. So these are some of the measures that we may have to take in order to prevent the stampede. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says moving policy away from population control. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. Let's look into the data as given under this article. The United Nations World Population Prospects 2020 forecasts India becoming the most populous country by 2023, surpassing China with a 140 crore population. This is somewhere around 4 times the population of India than what we were present at the time of 1947. So at the time of 1947, where we became independent, we had a population of about 34 crores, and now if we consider, it will be more than 4 times, says the United Nations World Population Prospects. Now at the third stage of the demographic transition and experiencing a slowing growth rate due to constant low mortality and rapidly declining fertility, India has 17.5% of the world's population, and as per the latest World Population Prospects, India will reach 150 crore by 2030 and 166 crore by the year 2050. It is in this particular backdrop the author goes on to say, while on one side what we will have is a demographic dividend. What is this demographic dividend all about? We've already recorded a video for the same. The link will be given in the description box. Please look into it. So this article says, while because of this population, what we will have is the demographic dividend. So on one side, what we are focusing is on the demographic dividend. This should be an asset and not a liability. There are major impediments that is stopping from exploring this demographic dividend. So all the impediments will have to be identified, and instead of population control, what the government should focus is on these impediments, which is stopping the demographic dividend becoming an asset that has to be explored, says this article. Let us try and understand this article in a larger picture. When you go back to the year 1960s, India had a population growth rate of about 2%. At the current rate of growth, this is expected to fall to 1% by the year 2025, and this basically means in 2021, India reached a significant demographic milestone as for the first time its total fertility rate slipped to below the replacement level of 2.1 children per woman as per the National Family Health Survey, and post-independence in the 1950s, India had a total fertility rate of 6. The author here goes on to say that India's population will be stabilized over a period of time. That is because if you look into the total fertility rate, it has currently slipped to 2, while the replacement level fertility is about 2.1, and when you consider what was happening at the time of independence, it was about 6. So whenever people are educated, whenever people are aware about the population control, they do it on their own. So the state need not have to intervene and it will happen naturally, says the author. But there are few states in India who are not meeting to this particular parameter and their total fertility rate is far in excess to this standard. Let's say for example, we have states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Manipur and Meghalaya. In all these cases, what we are currently witnessing is high levels of illiteracy, rampant child marriage, high levels of under 5 mortality, and the women are not actively participating in the labor force, and because they are not participating, they do not have independent economic resources of their own, and all that they have to do is rely on their husbands, rely on their male counterparts, which is why what we have is large number of total fertility rate in all these states. This is where the author goes on to say, when it comes to India, we have a demographic dividend. In the last 7 decades, the share of the working age population has grown from 50% to 65%, resulting in remarkable decline in the dependency ratio, number of children and elderly persons per working age population. As in the WPP 2022, India will be one of the large workforces globally. That is, in the next 25 years, 1 in 5 working age group persons will be living in India. This working age bulge will keep growing all the mid 2050s and India must make use of it. How are we going to make use of it? What are the impediments that are making us not be successful in this attempt? There are multiple impediments. What are those? First is the absence of the women. When it comes to India, what we have is the absence of the women in the labor market. It is mostly concentrated by the male, and when we have these women who are also participating in the job market, in the labor market, is the first major issue. When we consider India, we have large number of people who are employed, but added to it, what they also require is the constant upgradation of the skills. So the government of India, as well as the private sector, as well as the civil society, will have to be in a continuous process of increasing their skill set. Another major demographic concern is with respect to the male dominant sex ratio. In 1951, the country had a sex ratio of 946 males per 1000 males. After aggressively withstanding the hurdles that stop the betterment of sex ratios, such as preference for sons, sex selective abortions, the nation for the first time began witnessing a slightly improving sex ratio from 1981. In 2011, the sex ratio was 943 females per 1000 males. By 2022, it is expected to be approximately 950 per 1000 males, and it is a shame that 1 in 3 girls missing globally due to sex selection is from India, and 46 million of the total 142 million missing girls are from India. This has to be taken care of. The author next takes into picture the life expectancy at birth. When you look into the year 1947, what we had was a life expectancy of about 32 years in the year 1947, and if we speak about 2019, this is about 70 years. The infant mortality rate declined from 133 in 1951 to about 27 in 2020. The under 5 mortality rate fell from 250 to 41, and the maternal mortality rate dropped from 2000 in 1940s to 103 in 2019. Every other woman in the reproductive age group in India is anemic. Every third child below 5 is stunted. India stands 101 out of 116 nations in the Global Hunger Index. Added to it, we have also issues with the non-communicable diseases like the diabetes, like the heart disease, and India in the near future will also have the senior citizens as well. So the government in this particular backdrop will have to take care of the senior citizens, will have to take care of the children, will have to take care of the women, will have to take care of the health priorities of the country. So the focus should be on these aspects instead of focusing on the population control, says this article. So basically, this article here is speaking about the demographic dividend, the concerns with respect to the demographic dividend, how this have to be used in the near future so that this is converted into an asset is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Center begins scheme to rehabilitate beggars. The Social Justice and Empowerment Ministry has launched the Smile 75 initiative for comprehensive rehabilitation of persons engaged in begging. What do we understand by begging? Soliciting or receiving alms in a public place, whether or not under any pretense such as singing, dancing, fortune telling, performing or offering any article for sale, and having no visible means of subsistence, wandering about or remaining in any public place in such condition or manner as makes it likely that the person doing so exists soliciting or receiving alms. If you look into the statistics, as per the data released by the Union Ministry of Social Justice, there are about 4 lakh beggars in total. A total number of 4,13,630 beggars are residing in India, including 2,21,673 males as well as 1,91,973 females, and West Bengal is topping the charts with 81,224 beggars, followed by Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. And when it comes to northeastern states, Assam topped the list, and when it comes to the union territories, it is New Delhi which has the largest number of beggars. This is where we have to understand the causes of begging. This can be broadly categorized into 4 types. What are those? 1. This is on the basis of economy. What do we mean by source of economy? Whenever there is a beggar, he faces his own share of hardships. Whenever he is not able to find a job, he does not have financial independence. Let's say he is engaged in unemployment, there is a lot of poverty in this place, there is famine, or there are several other circumstances of poverty. This is where the person is facing economic crisis. Whenever there is economic crisis, this person is going to enter into begging, is one of the causes of begging. The second happens to be the biological cause. What is this biological cause? Let's say for example, there is a person suffering from certain kind of illness or sickness. There is no person to take care of this person. The person is physically handicapped or mentally incapable, and there is a person who is in old age, no one to take care of it. All this means there is a biological cause to it. Then there is natural event as well. Let's say for example, there is a disaster that strikes to that particular person. His family is entirely lost because of that natural disaster. It can be an earthquake, flood, tsunami, hurricanes and droughts, and this person has lost everything during this disaster. So an unexpected natural event can also result in a person begging for alms as well. And finally, what we have is the social biasness as well. Let's say for example, the breakdown of the family, the cultural life, the joint dysfunction, improper socialization also leads to one of the aspects of begging. So it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that these people do not beg in the near future. We have Article 46 of the Indian Constitution, which says promotion of educational and economic interests of scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other weaker sections. All these people are the weaker sections of the society. So making sure that the government protects them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation is one of the objectives of the government under the directive principles of the state policy. Then we have Article 21, which speaks about protection of life and personal liberty, which also means dignified life as well. So for a person to lead a dignified life in that particular place, what we require is the government stepping in. So what we have in the present situation is the government has stepped up as well, and as a result, the initiative is part of the Social Justice Ministry's ongoing SMILE project, which means support for the marginalized individuals for livelihood and enterprise, where about 100 crores has been allocated till 2025 and 26. So what is the objective of this particular program? One is to make our cities or the town and the municipal areas free of the begging, and at the same time to provide rehabilitation to all these people who are begging in multiple states, in multiple municipalities. So this article currently goes on to say that the government will tie up with the municipal corporations, experts of the field of beggary, eminent NGOs, and will participate in the nationwide launch through the online and the offline mode. So the SMILE initiative will cover comprehensive welfare measures for persons who are engaged in the act of begging, with focus extensively on rehabilitation, provision of medical facilities, counseling, awareness, education, skill development, economic linkages, and convergence with other government programs. So this program is all about making sure that the beggars are provided rehabilitation programs. Apart from this, we require a trained staff and sufficient rehabilitation centers for adults and children in that particular area, and the government will also have to make sure that there are few gangsters, peddlers and handlers who are also handling the beggars as well. In case there is any such activity, the same should be coming under the responsibility, and these people who are controlling such gangs should be thrown behind bars as well. Now let's look into the next article. This article says no holds barred. What is the context? There was a proposal that was moved by India, which was co-sponsored by the United States of America, to list Abdul Rauf Asghar in the UN Security Council 1267 Sanctions Committee. So the minute if it was approved, listing this person as a global terrorist would have subjected him to asset freeze, travel ban and arms embargo. But what is the major hurdle here? The major hurdle happens to be China, which has placed a technical hold on the proposal. Now the question is, who is this Abdul Rauf Asghar? He happens to be the person who was involved in the planning and execution of several terror attacks, including the hijacking of Indian Airlines flight IC-814, attack on the parliament and attack on the Indian Air Force base in Pathankot 2016, says the government resources, and China has put a technical hold on this person. This is not the first time that China is engaging in such activity. Previously as well, China placed on hold a joint proposal by India and the US to list the Deputy Chief of Lashkar-e-Taiba, Abdul Rahman Makki, in the sanctioned list, and Makki was involved in raising funds, recruiting and radicalizing youths to resort to violence and planning attacks in India, including the Mumbai terror attacks. So this article says that China is insensitive to the concerns of India, but India should not give up on it. So what should India do in the near future? India should persevere with attempts to designate both Makki and Asghar as well as other terrorists. It should continue to do so. And how? One, we have to put international pressure and garner more co-sponsors for the listing, bring more countries and ask these countries to support India and United States of America in designating such a terrorist on this particular list. We have to work on changing the procedure of 1267 committee's procedure. How does it happen? Let's say, for example, as of now, if you have a single country opposing it, then you would not be able to designate that terrorist on this particular list. So if we can bring change in the procedure itself, then such a designation cannot be stopped alone by China. Then we have open dialogues with China and Pakistan bilaterally on the issue, leveraging Pakistan's need to be removed from the FATF grey list. What does this mean? This means that we have to engage with Pakistan and say, Pakistan, that if you force China to put this particular person on this particular list, then we can help you in assisting bringing you out of the FATF grey list. So India should continue with its perseverance to put this person on the United Nations Security Council 1267 Sanctions Committee is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about one of the programs of the Government of India called as Namaste. What does it stand for? It stands for the National Action Plan for Mechanized Sanitization Ecosystem. This happens to be a joint venture which is undertaken jointly by the Ministry of Housing Urban Affairs, and it aims to eradicate unsafe sewer and septic tank cleaning practices. So basically it aims to achieve outcomes like zero fatalities in the sanitation work in India. No sanitation works comes in direct contact with the human fecal matter, and all sewer and septic tank sanitation workers have access to the alternative remedies, and at the same time whatever machinery is required for cleaning of all these septic tanks will be provided to the Safai Mitras, and at the same time in the near future other benefits like including the capital subsidies of up to 5 lakh on a sanitation machinery costing up to 15 lakh, and interest subsidies on loans where interest rates will be capped between 4 to 6% for the beneficiaries. All of it will be taken as part of this scheme. Now let's look into the next article. This article says never ending fight. This article here is speaking about section 295A of the Indian Penal Code, and we have discussed about this issue on 1st of August 2022. So kindly look into it. Now let's look into the mains practice question. India has witnessed many stampedes in the past. Discuss the reasons for such occurrences and suggest measures to overcome the issue. Should the state stop focusing on population control and focus on investment in human capital, on older adults living with dignity, and on healthy population aging? Evaluate. So please write all your answers on the comment section, and if you liked our initiative, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.